Well, greetings and salutations to everybody out there in YouTube land. I'm your host once again, Dan Thornton. I want to thank you all for tuning in today to Lions Talk Live. And you know what? We got a Wednesday. We're talking about different things, aspects affecting the team. It is the off season, and we're now one day closer to free agency, where everybody's going to be jumping up and down, hoping for this person to be signed, that person to be signed, etc. A couple things before we get into today's show about the Detroit Lions rookie class, and I'm sure we'll talk about a number of other topics. If you haven't yet subscribed to Lions Talk Live, please consider doing so. We're about 20 subs away from 5,800. And if you could do your part to help make that happen, I surely would be thankful. Also, if you enjoyed today's show, don't be afraid to hit that thumbs up button. Now, as we all know, the Detroit Lions rookie class of 2023, it was pretty good. I don't think there's another way to put it. It's pretty good. You got Sam Laporta, who, I'm not going to say he had the greatest season in NFL history for a rookie tight end, but it's sure hard to argue that it's not in the one of the top, 5 or 3 of all time. Some areas, statistically, yes, we can say he's the greatest ever. Yes, I know there are also going to be people that say, hey, he got to play 17 games versus 12 games or 15 games, whatever. That is what it is. What we can say is he's pretty rare. And Jahmyr Gibbs, I get draft day, everybody kind of bemoaned it. People across the nation, national media, whatever it was, said, man, who takes a running back nowadays at number 12? I don't think those people are having that same commentary for him. The kid looks like an absolute just weapon out there. He can run, he can catch. He really showed some maturity throughout the season and growth. At the start of the year, I think against Kansas City, most of us said, man, you're seeing some flashes here and there. But it really wasn't until, I want to say, the Atlanta Falcons game when David Montgomery had to miss that game because of, I don't remember. I want to say it was a calf injury or thigh injury, something of that sort, that Gibbs really got his chance. And from that game on, you could see more and more of the reasons why the Lions went after him. Then you have Jack Campbell, maybe the one real eyebrows raised from a lot of fans through about half the season. He had a couple plays here and there in the first half of the season, but nothing that really was over the top. There was nothing that was explosive that everybody said, yeah, that's a glimpse of the future. But throughout, his rookie season, pretty steadily upwards, always getting better. You could see, especially I felt like the last month, maybe month and a half of the season, why this guy was wanted by Tampa Bay, by other teams in the league, let alone the Detroit Lions. This kid started reading and reacting pretty hard, and his ability to take on, in my opinion, guards or centers, especially when they pulled, that was really something. He's so physical. He can take on somebody. Really, he's giving up 50, 70 pounds to on a regular basis and win the leverage game. That's something I think often gets missed with his position and his draft, that this guy, he's just getting started. He's going to continue to get better. And the fact he can do things like that his rookie year, I think is a real tell for the future. Then you have Brian Branch. I don't think it could have started out much better for him. The first game of the season against maybe one of the best quarterbacks in NFL history on their home turf, opening kickoff game of the year. He gets a deflected pass and returns it to the house for a pick six. And from there, I think Lions fans just were all enamored with this kid, how good he potentially can be. And he had other moments throughout the season for sure where he showed some real flash. We talked about it in the last few days, maybe even a little bit last week, about how much time it typically takes a defensive back or cornerback to really develop in this league. So stop and think right there. If we're seeing those signs out of him as a rookie, man, what can year 2, year 3, etc. have for this guy? And I think the sky is pretty bright. With all that also being said, let's also point out the fact that we're not even talking about Broderick Martin, Kobe Scoresdale, Green, the wide receiver, or, obviously Hendon Hooker. There are still a lot of guys from last year's draft class that we're just not sure about. How good could this class be when we look back and revisit it at year 3 or 4? That's going to really be something. All right, with all that out of the way now, one last thing I do want to throw at you guys, just because I almost forgot. If you didn't know, outside of being a coach and a YouTuber, I am a realtor. So if you're looking for somebody to help you either buy or sell property in the great state of Michigan, give me a call, shoot me a text, 269-998-2384. All right, now with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and see what you guys have to say about today's topic. Hopefully you're all having a great day, by the way. Michael, howdy, Dan, Lions faithful. Back at you, buddy. Hopefully you're having a great morning. Michael, greetings, salutations, coach and Duke Crew. The Duke Crew is up this morning, and you know what? I think we're all going to have a pretty good day, and I hope everybody does have a great day. Boo, good morning, Duke Crew. We talked about free agents. Very few mentioned Alex Anzalone on draft picks. Levi gets left out. Guys like Broderick Martin and Kobe Scoresdale are just getting started. Yeah, I think you're 100% Boo with that. As far as free agent signings, Anzalone, he's proving with every year that goes by that maybe he was a pretty good pick. I know some people said, hey, he didn't really do a whole lot in New Orleans, but clearly these coaches who came over from the Saints had some kind of vision for him and said, this guy could be something. Every year in Detroit, he continues to progress and take another step forward. I would actually say he is a pretty good NFL linebacker, and not just in Detroit, but on most teams. He can cover, he can hit, he fills gaps. I mean, really anything you want from a Mike linebacker or even a strong side backer, he does pretty well. He has the flexibility to play, in my opinion, all three spots up there, which gives you a lot of defensive flexibility in the schemes you want to run. Now, when you get to Levi Onwuzurike, I mean, for what he's done with what he went through last offseason with the fusion in his lower back, I mean, the fact he's on an NFL team, I know I've said it before, but I'll continue to say it. That's impressive. It gives you at least some kind of thoughts on what he could have been if that fusion didn't happen. All that being as it may, he's still out there producing. He's still helping the team, and that's real credit to him. In regards to Broderick Martin or Kobe, what we can say is this. You've seen a little bit of them this year, not a ton. Yes, they're both still pretty raw, but the upside is clearly there. If you believe in the coaching staff, if you believe in their ability to develop players, then what they bring from a raw physical standpoint, the measurables, the weight, the size, the athleticism, then you're 100% right, Boo. These guys 2 years from now, 3 years from now could really be contributors. And again, how much will that affect our thoughts on the 2023 draft class? I mean, I wouldn't be forgetting about those guys or Hooker or Antoine Green or anybody like that anytime soon, because I believe the future is bright for all of them. All right, Kurt, greetings and salutations all. One of the best rookie classes I think we've ever seen in Detroit. The crazy part is just how much better it can still become. Yeah, and I've already talked about it a few times, but I mean, think about, just for the sake of discussion, if Broderick Martin just becomes a rotational player where he's playing, 30, 40% of the defensive snaps. Scoresdale, same thing with him as a guard, probably. I'm assuming a guard. Maybe he'll become the heir apparent at right tackle. But if he ends up filling in and just being above average, competent, whatever you want to say, offensive lineman, then again, how much different does this class look? And then when it comes to someone like Green at receiver, if he just becomes an adequate punt kick returner who can play some reps as receiver, again, you're adding depth, you're adding flexibility. This draft class looks so much better. And then the real wild card in all the unknown factors so far is going to obviously be Hendon Hooker. If he ever becomes a starting quarterback in the NFL, whether it's for us or whoever, then man, not only did Brad Holmes nail seemingly every pick in the draft, but every pick end up being something of a strong, productive nature. And that's just almost unheard of. All right, Jason, greetings and salutations all. I went skiing with my 97 Hutchinson jersey, half Michigan, half Lions, and found out quickly how many Minnesota fans were pulling for us last few weeks. Fans everywhere. Well, congrats to you on making a bunch of new friends. And yeah, I got to imagine when you're out there, people taking notice of the kid. He's had a pretty good career so far. In his first 2 seasons, I mean, he might not be Reggie White. He may never be Lawrence Taylor, but that doesn't mean the guy's not a baller and he can't play. He's had a heck of a run. And you know what? We've talked about in the show during the season. If they can get somebody opposite of him that occasionally forces flushes or quarterbacks out of the pocket to Hutchinson instead of always in the reverse, it seems, then yeah, his numbers could really jump up in the next couple of years. Quentin, raise salutations all and keep drafting like this, man. Then this team gonna be around for a real long time. Brad Holmes is the truth of the draft. Yeah, it's really just impressive what he's done in 3 drafts. I can't think of easily any pick he's had in his 3 different drafts where we'd say, man, that guy just didn't work out. They've all, they've all seemingly worked out. Ife Melifonwu, I know some people had some questions on him. Obviously, he got his opportunity this year. He's finally healthy. He looks like a real pick there. Barnes, it took him sort of like Ife a few seasons to kind of get his feet wet, get into the flow of things, and then he's come on. And I don't think everybody's going to say he's the best linebacker in the league. He might not even be the best linebacker on this team, but he does make the starting lineup. He does make plays. Obviously, everybody's going to remember that interception against Tampa Bay for a while. And you know what? Not every guy has to be a Hall of Famer that you draft, but if you can just get a few guys to be up here and a bunch of guys to make sure the average depth of the team is pretty solid, then I think you've done your job as a GM. Michael, Coach, have you read Alex Anzalone's emotional letter to Detroit? Man, it pulled on your heartstrings. It's going to be a long 6 months. Yes, I did. And in fact, I actually reshared it or posted it, whatever you want to say, on Facebook. I just thought it was impressive. But you were hearing from a lot of the players basically the same story. They believe in Dan Campbell. They believe in this team. They believe in the direction and the just basically where they're being taken. There's nobody complaining about this or that. They're all galvanized and facing in one direction. I'm sure most of you have heard the term row the boat. Well, I can't use that, with my team, so I say pedal the bike. But everybody on that bike's got to go in the same direction. And it sounds like Anzalone and his teammates. I know Panay talked about it to some degree, I don't know, last week or something like that. But I think they're all on board with this team, with this direction. And I think that really needs to say something to all of us. I get the emotions sometimes get to us. I know they get to me as a coach sometimes. And unfortunately, sometimes maybe I run my mouth when I shouldn't. And I'm learning from that. But what I will say is go back to when the Lions lost that NFC Championship game. Emotions are high. You probably have half the fan base wanting to burn MCDC on a stake for going for those 4th downs. The other half is just saying, nah, we did the right thing. But here's the real tell to me where a coach lies with their players, irregardless of the sport. Something like this. The players are all unified, from what I can tell, that they believe in MCDC. They believe in their coaches, Aaron Glenn, Ben Johnson. Us fans can have our own thoughts. But if the people working under the coaches believe in them and they're willing to back them up, that probably tells you something that the players say, nah, that was the right thing in our eyes going forward that 4th down. And I get some of his comments. Hey, some of them could barely get out of bed that morning, that time of the year. Everybody's bodies are crushed. So I get it. Go for the kill because, there's only so much gas left in the tank. All right, Michael, good morning. School bus just went by. Show starting soon. Yes, it is. Have a good morning to you, my friend, and hopefully having a great one. Bergs, good morning. Dan and the Duke crew, good morning to you, buddy. Thanks for all you do for the channel. Angie, Brian Branch wants CJ Gardner-Johnson back, and so do I. It does sound like, Angie, you are spot on with that. That there's a few players have stepped up, I should say, and said, hey, CJ back gets a thumbs up from me. So, I know we talk about it. I know there's some of us that don't like some things he does, but when your teammates have your back, he's doing something right. And he's doing something right to where enough of them are openly talking about, hey, I'm okay with him coming back. We want him back. So as fans, we've got our thoughts and views, but obviously the team is around this guy all the time. They see aspects of him we simply don't, just because we're not around him that much. So that probably needs to speak volumes about what his teammates think of Gardner-Johnson. All right, Dave, good morning. Any idea or best guess how Broderick Martin or some of the other persons in the draft class might fare in time? I've said this for a while on Broderick Martin. I think he's going to be pretty good. Now, could he be pretty good like Pro Bowler? That I won't go so far as to predict. What I will say is I think too often we get caught up where we're saying, hey, it's rookie year, man, halfway through the season or the end of the season, this dude isn't playing, must be a bust. But just look at some of the great Lions players in our time, or at least my lifetime. How about that? I think of Jerry Ball. Jerry Ball was a 3rd-round pick and didn't play a ton until really year 2 or 3. And don't hold me to that. I'm going off, 20-some years, maybe 30 years of memories. But that sounds about right. Slay as a cornerback. Everybody thought he was a bust his rookie year. 2nd year, he was He's all right. I mean, he wasn't great. He wasn't horrible, but he wasn't anything super solid. But that third year, that's where he really broke out. And you're seeing that with some of the comments about our first rookie class, about Iffy and Derek Barnes and stuff like that. Some guys just take a bit, but I will say this with Broderick Martin, I think he's got all the physical tools. He just needs more of the mechanical tools to be ingrained into his mind so he can do them without thinking and stuff. And that does take time. Hendon Hooker, I mean, I've said it earlier in the show, he's the great unknown. He's got all the physical tools in the world. Will he end up being something in the NFL as far as a quarterback? I don't know. If he can just be a stable backup for 3 years with the Lions, then you know what? Third round pick for an athletic, big armed, solid number 2 quarterback, I'd say that's about right. All right, Jessica, Angie, if BB wants him back, then I'm guessing other players do too. I'll listen to them on that. Yeah, I agree with you on that. If Gardner Johnson's made that kind of impact where his teammates are all clamoring for him to come back, then you know what? Probably want to listen to them at least to some degree, as long as the contract and everything works out. Michael, Frank Ragnow is coming back because his contract obligations. He's having fun with Decker and Glasgow. Who's funny? Fraley, Johnson, Campbell are great coaches. Goff and him, just Masters and Super Bowl. Yeah, I would say as long as he feels, Michael, to your point, as long as Frank the Tank feels like he's physically able to go, then yeah, he'll be back 100%. But I would say this, like we talked about, whatever, when we did the mock draft, you probably need to, whether it's, this year or next year, you probably need to start planning for his eventual swan song or curtain call, whatever you want to say, ride off into the sunset. So whether they'll dress his replacement this year in the first round, that I don't know. To me, it would make sense because I'm guessing you're going to need at least one starting offensive lineman via free agency or the draft. So maybe they'll do it, maybe they won't. All right, Ed, what do you got? Good morning, Coach and Duke crew. I've been listening to some contract talk on the chat shows, and they're saying Goff is in that 50 million range. What does the Duke crew think? Whew. I mean, he might be. My opinion, boy, it's a tough one, because I'll put it this way. If he has another year like last year, or basically like the last 2 or 3 years, somebody's going to pay him, whether or not it's Detroit or not. And every year that goes by, we all get it. That number is only going to go one way. It's only going to go up. To me, I don't know. I would really try to get him for 40, 43 a year. Obviously, in order to achieve that, you're probably getting a little bit of a hometown discount. Man, if he could go anywhere like 38 or so, I think you're crushing. You're knocking the ball out of the park. But the bottom line is this: there's a huge shortage in the NFL for quality starting quarterbacks in the NFL, and somebody's going to pay him. Baker Mayfield, he's going to get paid. And is he going to get Goff money? Probably not. Is he going to be just a little bit below? Probably. Every team needs a starting quarterback. Not every team has one. Every year you're hearing, probably half. Well, we'll go with 1/3 of the league clamoring for the draft. This is going to be our savior. And obviously, we all know out of the, however many starting quarterbacks are drafted in the first or second round, it's 50-50 at best if most of those guys will have any kind of productive NFL career. All right, Dennis. Good morning, fam. Good morning to you too. Stephanie and Michael, I think you're right. Frank is going to return. Yeah, I would agree with that. Stephanie, and good morning all. And good morning to you too. Bergs, Frank the Tank will be back, just taking time to recharge and relax. He knows what's coming. Yeah, I think you're spot on. I think we all get it. Him, Reeves, Maben, Decker, and anybody else who's still around for those are the only guys I can easily think of. But anybody who's been around and been through the mud in Detroit now has this opportunity, this team. Yeah, they're probably in no hurry to get out of the league. So they want to embrace this and enjoy this for a little bit. So I think you're spot on, Bergs. Mike, what do you got? Holmes has done nothing short of the impossible with each of his drafts. This guy is the best GM we've had. I mean, I think the argument could be made. He is the greatest Detroit Lions general manager. And I'll try to be fair to other ones, at least that I can think of since the early 80s. I'm not going to say I knew enough as a, 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old kid in the 70s to really be able to fairly assess any general manager there. Wasn't around for the 50s or 60s. That was before my show began. So I can't accurately judge them. But what I can say is it really, since the 80s, it'd be hard to say that anybody was better than Brad Holmes. Brad Holmes is just crushing it so well in the draft, handling the dead cap space, handling the books, all that stuff. That, yeah, you're probably spot on. He is the best we've had in that time frame. Ed, a 3-year contract for $150 million seems too much for me. I'm assuming you're talking for Goff. I have no idea how long they'll go. I'm sure his representation is going to want or prefer a probably 4 to 5 year deal. I think if you give them that, and I'm not saying they will, I'm not saying that, that's where if I'm Brad Holmes, I'm probably come back and say, fine, we'll give you 4 or 5, but instead of $50 million a year, we need you to take, 40, 43 a year, something like that, because you're going to want to be, you as Brad Holmes and the Detroit Lions, if something goes awry or Hooker ends up being the man or whatever it may be, you want some flexibility to be able to get out of some things. Franz, greetings and salutations. And I think Hooker, Martin are still unknowns. Yeah, and to think that they're unknown quantities among the other guys we kind of mentioned this morning, I think you're 100% right. Those guys have wild upsides. And if they don't hit, this draft class is still pretty dang good. If they do hit, man, then you've hit the winning lotto ticket basically with this draft class. All right, Robert, greetings and salutations. Back at you. Dennis, I think we should look at BG from Kansas. Okay, that's not a bad call there at any means. So you're probably spot on with that. We'll have to do maybe a little bit of talk about that with the next mock draft. We're still about 5 days away from round 2 of the mock draft. All right, Eddie, what do you got? Greetings and salutations to all. This is going to be the biggest offseason is this going to be the biggest offseason in our history? Maybe not, maybe so. I guess it was really going to come down to how you view it, because you think about where this team could potentially be in a year from now or 2 years from now, and how much this offseason is going to play a factor in that. Then I think you're right from that standpoint. I'm going to go with this, though. The biggest one, at least in my opinion, and I think an argument could be made to 3 years ago when this regime took over. You think about some of the guys they drafted then, free agents they signed, like Anzalone, crazy enough as that may be, or the retaining of Goff or the investment in Goff at that point, and obviously the dividends that paid into year 2 and 3 and going forward. Probably nobody really would have anticipated it then, but look at where a lot of those pieces are now with the team and how they look across the league. I mean, Amon-Ra St. Brown alone, nobody saw that one coming with a 4th round pick. We all know the story, so I won't go into it, but man, as he hit, Anzalone, a lot of people thought he was just kind of a meh signing. I mean, he's ended up he's not a Pro Bowler, he's not, Hall of Fame or anything, but the guy is solid. And then you look at Goff, he went from being, hey, he's here for a year just to kind of hold the clipboard and get us through this brutal season, to, man, now we're talking about signing him for 3 to 5 years, somewhere 40, 50 million. Hooker time. What would you rather have? 1 magical season, Super Bowl win, or 15 years of being good but never winning? I'm selfish here, man. I'm 51 and going to be 52 later this year. I'm going for the Super Bowl win, man, because you never know if I'll be around for all those 15 years. It is what it is. I mean, how about this, Hooker time? I'll go with this. If I could have a Super Bowl win or be the Green Bay Packers the last 30 years, which would I want? I probably still want the Super Bowl win, but I would not have any complaints about 15 years of, being in the playoffs, being in the cusp of the Super Bowl. But yeah, still knowing that we haven't had one. Yeah, I'm probably taking the Super Bowl. You guys have your own thoughts on it, but that's where I'm going. All right, Jason, how long will we stick with dual running backs? Is Gibbs able to handle a single back workload? I would say he could, but you're also going to wear him down far faster just because the accumulation of hits over seasons. Could you get away with it for 1 or 2 years? Sure. But again, once that once that tread starts coming off the tire, it doesn't ever come back. So if it's me, I'm sticking with the 2-back system just to preserve both of them throughout the year of the playoffs. but also for future years in consideration. All right, Ed, what do you got? I hope we can have 15 winning seasons like the Packers. Yeah, I mean, Packers, ever since Dan Majkowski, the Magic Man, basically handed the football to Brett Favre, I mean, that franchise has been relevant. Very few down seasons in that time. They've had a couple, but by Detroit Lions standards, I mean, those are flashes in the pan when it happens. And you know what? What they seem to be on the cusp of doing with the third straight quarterback, that really says something about them. You've got the smallest team in the NFL, smallest area to draw from, and yet year in and year out, that stadium is packed. The fans are ravenous. The team is strong. That's also a credit to their front office for how well they draft and sign free agents. They can't compete with the big dogs as far as salary cap numbers and resigning players left and right. But you know what? They find a way for it to work seemingly every year in Green Bay. Boo, can't overstress Gibbs. Hutch was wearing down. Don't want the same thing with anyone. Yeah, and I know we've talked about the show, and Boo, I completely agree with Hutchinson. You could see where, really there came a point later in the season where he just didn't look effective anymore. And some of that, at least in my opinion, is throughout the bulk of the season, they were playing him 90+% of the snaps. I get they felt they had to be competitive. You got to go for wins. But you could see what that was doing for him. It's literally, in my opinion, once he went through a week of only 70% of the snaps, after that first week, he just seemed to be recharged, and he was a completely different person. He was the player we remember from last year or the start of this year. And that's when he had the string of whatever it was, 8 sacks in 3 weeks or something like that. And yes, I get some of those sacks were kind of gimmies, but it is what it is. He became relevant again. So, yeah, they need to make sure that they don't overwork players. Otherwise, you may not have them at the end of the year, especially as the season seem to keep adding more and more games. Yeah, that's more and more wear. Uncle Buzz, what do you got? I really appreciate the lack of politics and snark on your channel. Thanks. Yeah, no worries. I get there's a couple that will talk politics from time to time. I just ask that we try to keep it to a minimum and be respectful of each other. Snark, I don't really think we have that too much here, but maybe from moments, but that's rare. All right, Dennis, they can both sign Josh Reynolds and Donovan Peoples-Jones. Can they? Yes, they could do it. They're going to have – the Lions are going to at least do on projections right now. I want to say they're going to be like about the 4th best team when it comes to salary cap availability this offseason. I want to say we're right under 60 million. There's probably a couple moves you could do to get us to 65, maybe 70 million a year. And I want to say the number 1 team in the league this offseason is going to have about 75 million in cap. So the Lions have some money to work with. How much are they going to use on free agents? That I don't know, but I will say this. I do believe Brad Holmes is probably not going to spend a lot. I get we're all going to go into the free agency. We're fans. It's part of what we do. We're going to, salivate at the idea of signing this big name guy or that big name guy. I just don't think that's consistent with Brad Holmes. I think he's going to keep a lot of the money in-house for when people need to be re-signed. They're going to try to just re-sign their own guys, the ones that they feel loyal to, have worked out, have been conducive to the culture. So maybe they will sign a few free agents. I'm just anticipating it's going to be, if we do, it's not going to be a ton. It's not going to be the top guys. It's going to be the level below. Maybe I end up being wrong, though. Trump, woo! The first woo of the day. There you go. Boo, hit the like button, crew. Yeah, if you guys can, pretty pleased with Mountain Dew on top. Hit that like button and hit the subscription button. All right, Donkey Kong Super Bowl or bust? Yeah, absolutely. That's all roads lead to the Super Bowl next year. And you know what? It's the next season will begin in Detroit with the draft, and from there, man, the fun just begins. And once the draft's done, we're just months away from preseason stuff, and yeah, things will start really heating up. Boo, see Donkey Kong. Woo! There you go. Hookadoo. Good morning, Coach and Do crew. Good morning to you, buddy. Ken, greetings and salutations all back at you. Hopefully you're having a great one. Broski Bear, what do you got? Isn't Sam Laporta just a receiving tight end? He can't be on every down starter. He can't block. I'll say this, Broski. Everybody has their own views. I think he blocks pretty well outside of maybe that Dallas game. The Dallas game, yeah, he got maybe it wasn't his best day. We'll put it that way. But I think he blocks pretty well. Yeah, pretty good. I'm not going to say he's elite, but I would say, scale 1 to 10, he's like a 7 out of 10. Maybe an argument could be made for 8 out of 10. But that Dallas game, he might have been a 3 out of 10 that day. It just wasn't his day in the blocking assignments. All right, Dennis, what do you got? Laporta is the best tight end in the league. Argue with me. All right. I'm going to say this. I'm not going to say anybody is the best in something unless they're just clearly heads and tails over something else. But I think, Dennis, you're pretty spot on. I think an argument could easily be made. He's top 5, maybe top 3. And I mean, man, you get in the top 3, you're really, splitting hairs on the differences. If I had to pick between, guys, I don't even know who you pick in the top 3. Maybe, oh gosh, what's his name over in San Fran and the Kansas City? I mean, he's right up there with those guys. And again, I think you're splitting hairs between any of them, Kelsey and then et cetera. Laporta is a good blocker. Yeah, I would agree. Don 37 days until free agency. You are correct, sir. And again, we'll see what happens, but I'm just anticipating Lions will probably strike early, probably strike some deals with a few mid-tier guys, but it's my anticipation we're just not going out for any big name guys. Well, I've been wrong before. Mile marker, just read it. Wow, Anzalone is the real deal. He is, yes. As far as his post, yeah, that was real nice of him. And I think just days before Penei Sewell, he didn't put out a post, but he did make some comments about, hey, everyone on the team was all for what Dan Campbell chose to do. Twisted, what do you got? Man, I hope Ragnow comes back. I really want a Super Bowl for him. I know he's hurting. One more time, big guy, all grit. Yeah, I think you're pretty spot on, man. You got to feel for him, Decker, and Reeves-Maybin. I get Maybin went away for a bit or whatever it was, one season or something, came back. But that also needs to be a tell. Somebody signed somewhere else and then wanted to come back here. I mean, man, it just shows what kind of impression this coaching staff made on him that he wanted to come back and be a part of this. But to your point, Ragnow, yeah, you got to feel for the guy. You got to feel like, hey, he's earned the right to embrace this moment. Same with Deck, same with Maybin. So I hope they really all come back, get the band back together, and do something real special this upcoming year. Trumps, what do you got? No politics. All right, here we go. Bit lady, good morning, Dan and the Duke crew. Good morning to you too. Good evening, whatever it may be where you're at, Bit lady. Hopefully you have a great one. Broski, Trump's genius. Oh boy, here we go. Kurt Steele, what up, though? What up, Kurt? The infamous one, Kurt Steele, the living legend himself. How you doing, man? And where you at in the world today? You still traveling? Hopefully having a great one, my friend. Broski, Kurt Steele, who's Doe? Johnny Doe. There we go. Dennis, if you smell what Dan is cooking, oh boy, here we go. I do like to cook, and sometimes Jen does not like what I cook. She does not like spicy food. All right, Broski, Lions draft class was remarkable. It was. It's hard to find anything wrong with that draft class and the potential it still holds. That's the crazy part. As good as those four first picks were, just think if 3 of the remaining picks end up being something. All right, Kurt Broski Bear, LOL. All right, there we go. Trump, it'll be nice day. I'll be nice day. Thank you very much for that. Let's see, Broski, Kurt Steele, Doe, a deer, a female deer. There you go. Seriously, who is Doe? Okay, boy, here we go, Broski. All right, Southwest. Good morning, all. Dan, how much of an impact do you think Terrell Williams' hire will have on improving the pass rush sack totals for the front four? I think he's pretty good. The more I found out about him, he's very aggressive. He's going to be looking for guys to shoot gaps more than hold assignments. So what I mean by that is start with your interior line. They are not going to be worried so much, from what I can tell, at least. And we'll see if that holds true, because maybe he has some different objectives in coordination with Aaron Glenn. That will be a part I can't speak to because I have no idea what freedom Aaron Glenn's going to give him. But I think, you're going to see defensive tackles, defensive edges or ends try to basically say, we're not worried about holding up in the blocking assignment. We're all about getting after the quarterback. They're going to be uber aggressive. Yes, there is some downsides to that. But if you believe in the backers or whoever's in the second layer of defense to be able to hold their own and clean some things up, then you're probably seeing a lot more gap penetration, not just in pass rush, but in run defense as well. So I'm guessing it's going to be a big win for us because of the aggression. And we saw throughout the season this year, as Aaron Glenn wanted more and more aggressive defense, that paid bigger dividends for the defense as a whole. So this should just add another layer to that. All right, let's see. Trump, get the DE from Minnie. Yeah, Hunter. Yeah, I think, and I just don't know if Brad Holmes is going to be willing to write that check because that dude's going to get paid. I mean, he's not the only one. You got Allen who's going to get paid. Either one of them would be real nice on the Detroit defense. Josh Allen is a little bit younger. I want to say Hunter's like 30, maybe 31. Allen, I want to say is like 26 or 7, at least somewhere in those ranges. So, but they're both pretty dang good. Dennis, what up, Doe? Kurt Steele. Oh boy. Here we go. Kurt Steele. We had 2 rookie Pro Bowlers, and one of these was an All-Pro. Campbell and Branch are only going to get better. I would agree with that 1,000%. The new D-line coach is going to make Martin a beast. Yes, Broderick Martin. I mean, you talk about someone shooting gaps. You talk about just the athletic traits. I think you're 100% right, Kurt. If you get him just to be marginally better from year 1 to year 2 with his mechanics, and if he, with that athleticism, and you look at his speed, if he shoots a gap where he wins leverage on a guard or a center to where they're having to turn, they can no longer hold under the shoulder pads to try to contain him. Yeah, he's going to be a real problem. Broski, Dennis, who is this Doe person? Oh boy. Trump Colby is a big old boy. Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see how much he improves. If he can really improve, just at least one facet of the game. Last year, I thought he just was not great in run blocking and pass blocking. Or if he can just be solid at one of them, then I think, especially if you're going to play him as a guard, you can help him out in the deficient part. Just because somebody can slide over as long as there's not a blitz coming on where everybody's got to have single blocking assignments. But if you can do that over time, and then year 3, just help him evolve into where he's sound in both sides, run blocking, pass blocking, then yeah, he's got some real upside. Dennis, yes. Kara, greetings and salutations. Finally caught the beginning of the live stream. Well, welcome to the live stream from the start, and hey, glad you're here. Hopefully having a good morning. Dale, good morning, Duke Crew, back at you, buddy. Hopefully you're having a great day. Is that so you know? Oh boy, here we go. Everybody's having a great day. All right, Broski Bear, 2, yes. Is that still you? Yes, 2. All right, Trump, no. Oh boy, here we go. Kara, I can't wait to see Branch and Jack Campbell develop. Campbell stepped up when Anzalone was out. He has, and again, throughout the season, you could see growth in him. And again, watching him, to me, the thing I really liked, maybe just coaching standpoint or whatever, but when teams try to use guards or somebody pulling on him, he was just able to own them physically. This guy, I don't think people understand how big and physical he is. And again, I know I said it earlier in the show, but watching him taking on pulling guards and knowing he's giving up 50 to 70 pounds to those guys, and yet he's still out physicaling them. I mean, his test scores at the combine were off the chart, all except the 40-yard dash. And it just shows just how rare and freakish athletic this dude is. Now, if he continues to develop, man, that's really going to pop. All right, Trump, keep supporting kids. All right, you all right, man? All right, here we go. Ed, over the past 70 years, I've seen several good drafts, but those guys wouldn't stay here. Now they might. We will see. Yeah, and I think that's, to your point, Ed, obviously the success of the draft, we're all seeing that. Perhaps, just a thought, but perhaps Brad Holmes is keeping a lot of the books clean and clear so they can re-sign these guys. I think everybody enjoys the culture in Detroit. Everybody enjoys the coaches. So then it comes down to one simple thing. When their rookie contracts expire, are you going to be able to afford them? And you're not going to be able to afford everybody. It's just mathematically, it's not going to happen. You keep drafting that well, you can't re-sign everybody. But if you're going to sign the bulk of them and they want to stay, then that's a win-win for everybody. Johnny Mac, what do you got? I hope we use Hooker like Hill from New Orleans. That's a thought. He could be something like a Taysom Hill. So is he going to be running like that? I don't know. But could you use him for a change of pace quarterback? Maybe some different situations here and there. It is definitely possible. You got a point there. Southwest Lion, hey, good to see you, man. Lions can exercise the 5th-year option on Sewell. They can, yes. but I'd like to see them work out details with Penei Sewell, St. Brown, and Goff this offseason. All need to be less than max to keep the core together. Yeah, and there's no argument for me on that. If everybody wants to stay together, if everybody wants to keep the band together, not everybody can get paid the max. And I would say this, I'm going to anticipate that they're all going to take about 90% of their max deals. I get you're still talking, they're giving up probably a few million each of them, but 2 or 3 and then 4 guys do that. You've now re-signed probably 1.5 guys. And it's just a trickle down effect. The more people you can get to do it, the more people you can retain. So we'll see what happens, but we're going to have some answers regarding this probably in the next, month and a half or so. All right, Johnny, just in QB role. Yeah. I knew where you were going with that, man. Michael, what up? Brad Holmes has made the draft his personal joy. There we go. I would concur with that. Kara, Johnny Mack, I agree. I would give our offense more flexibility for sure. Yeah, in some change of paces. Put the defense in a bad situation too. Just give them another thing in practice the week prior to playing the Lions where they now have to spend time getting ready for. To me, I'm a big fan. Anything you can do to force teams to waste time in practice, or I shouldn't say waste, but have to cover more and more things just to specifically get ready for it. That's a huge win. Broski, Hooker works late nights. There you go. He never stops, does he? Bit lady, Southwest Line. I hope the long-term extensions, the first chip I hope falls is Goff with a hometown discount for some extent. Then others should be pressured to follow. Yeah, I would agree. If they're going to re-sign Goff this offseason before next year begins or whatever, that's going to be a big tell where probably other dominoes are going to fall. Maybe St. Brown gets signed first, but to me, if you're going to re-sign the quarterback this offseason, that's going to set a huge tone for everybody else. If he wants max dollars, then you know what other people are going to say, I'm going to want max dollars. If he takes, 85, 90% of what the max is, then everybody else is going to say, you know what? He did it. I'm going to do it too. So I think you're pretty right on that. Who is MC DC Broski Bear? Motor City Dan Campbell. There you go. Yep. And Trump. Yeah. Motor City Dan. Yep. All right. Southwest Bit Lady. No quarterback can be successful without a strong supporting cast. Have to think Goff understands this. Yeah. And especially Goff. I think everybody around the league, every media person, you, me, everybody watching this show is going to say the same thing. Goff, he's pretty dang good when he's got the right parts around him. If he has to go to, I don't know, man, let's just say somebody's whatever team, Atlanta, Arizona, whoever, is he going to be nearly this successful? Doesn't mean those teams don't have some parts to throw around him or whatever, but is he going to be the Jared Goff we've seen the last, 2.5 years? Probably not. Broski, Trump's, okay, yep. Broski, let's see. Not true. A true elite quarterback makes everyone else better. If there's some argument to say the real elite quarterbacks can do that, but you're talking maybe 2-3 dudes in the league that are those guys. And as much as I like Jared Goff, I also have to try to be fair with my opinion. I don't think he's that guy. I don't think you could throw him on a decimated team and have him over supersede the talent level of that team. I just don't think he's got that ability. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's just my view. Bit lady, Broski Bear, Motor City Dan Campbell. Yep. Michael, here's a difficult 2-part question to mull over for later. Number 1, is there a player in round 1 you would trade up to, but they want your 29th pick and a player? Who would it be? Off the top of my head, there's nobody I think that I guess it would also depend on how far up in the draft you want to trade. Like if you want to go up to the 28th or 27th spot, you could probably make that happen. If you're talking top 10 or, maybe top 15, boy, you'd have to give up something real enticing for a team to take that. And I don't think that's, something, Michael, that Brad Holmes is going to do. Now, with that being said, when we drafted Jameson Williams, obviously we made that happen, but I would also say we probably got a pretty good deal on that trade up. I don't think we gave up nearly enough to make that happen. But on that given day, at that given time, Minnesota was willing to take what we were offering. And that shocked the heck out of me. I'll say that. Southwest Lion, Broski, yeah. But true elites, Mahomes make up a very short list. Yeah, there's very few at that level. Broski Bear, Southwest Lion, look at the bum wide receivers Holmes is throwing to. Brady threw to bum wide receivers on several of his early Super Bowl teams. Yeah, and they're vastly different quarterbacks. They were able to achieve similar results. And it's no disrespect to Jared Goff or 90% of the NFL quarterbacks. It's just 90% of them can't do what those two can do. They don't have those abilities, and those abilities are vastly different with each of those quarterbacks you mentioned. All right, Michael, I think bringing back CJ Gardner-Johnson back would hurt Branch's development going forward because when CJ is on the field, Branch is off the field. There's an argument to be made for that unless you're going to move Branch to a different position. So you're pretty spot on with that. Moonscar, good morning, Coach and Duke Crew. Back at you, buddy. Hopefully you're having a great one. Broski Bear, Southwest Lion, those are the elite of the elites. But look at what CJ Stroud did this season. You can't tell me his receivers are elite. No, and I think you're pretty spot on with that. With Stroud, I think it's going to be a real tell. If he does this next year, when now everybody's got tape, they know more about his strengths and weaknesses, they game plan for it better. If he does this next year, then I think, man, that kid, he might end up being pretty damn good because he did some real special stuff last year. Now, if he does it in the second year, then yeah, I think an argument to be made. He might be the next, Patrick Mahomes, the next best young quarterback. All right, Southwest Line, yeah, Mahomes is the only one I can think of, but even he, for the most part of the season, wasn't killing it. The Chiefs weren't looking Super Bowl bound until the postseason. Yeah, and then they turned it on. But some of that is also too his receiving core developed over time, over the season, so they all got better. All right, Broski Bit Lady, hi and thank you. Okay. Southwest Broski, the sample size on CJ Stroud is quite small. Let's see if he can do it more than 1 year. Yeah, 100%. If he does it, 2-3 more years in a row, then yeah, you've got something pretty rare there. Broski, Southwest Line, poor QBs are also where good wide receivers go to die. I've seen it happen many times. Yes, especially if you've been a Detroit Lions fan. All right, Broski, no argument there. Yes. Trump's didn't my pay that bum. Okay, don't pay that guy $50 million. All right. New York, yes, New York did pay their quarterback a lot. I want to say it was like 45 million a year, and they may be regretting that at least today. Dennis, yes. Broski, Baker should get paid. Yeah, Baker's going to get paid. I'm guessing Tampa Bay is not letting him leave by any means. All right, Hookadoo. If Gardner-Johnson does it again, send him to his room for a week. That could be an adequate punishment, perhaps. Broski, Baker never stopped believing himself. No, he didn't. He took a real gamble on his career by signing with Tampa Bay for a $4 million a year incentives laden contract, but also showed that he really believed he could do it, and he did it. Stephanie, aka Hot Stuff. Okay, fair enough. All right, Trump, I wanted Baker for a backup, but he probably wouldn't have done that. No, I know there was, I remember like Skip Bayless and all them, they were talking about Baker should come to Detroit. He's better than Goff. Lions should take care of him and get him. But yeah, they didn't end up doing that. And hey, Goff worked out. Baker, it worked out for him. So great for them. Phil, haircut. Yeah, a couple days ago, got a haircut. So got all my hairs cut. All right. Is that still you? Every chat, the trader. Oh boy, here we go. All right, Phil. It's going to be a bargain in a couple of years. Yep. The $50 million or whatever you get signed for. Really, once you get to year 2 or 3 in that deal, it starts looking better and better. So every year you wait to re-sign somebody, it's going to cost you more. Trump later pay. Oh, here we go. Southwest Lion. I want Goff to be extended, but $50 million is too much. He's a very good quarterback, but he needs a strong core surrounding him, and that costs money. Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. It does take a lot. I mean, you need to have a good team around Goff to really get the most out of Goff. So I agree with that. Phil, do you have a picture of Bobby? Would she agree to us seeing her? She's famous. Boy, I guess I don't know. I guess I'd have to ask her, hey, Bobby, can I take a picture of you to put on a YouTube channel? That might come across the wrong way. So I guess I could throw the idea at her, but Let me think on that one. Thomas Goff will get a 3-year contract. Yeah, that's a real possibility. I think at least 3 years. And again, I think his representation is going to push for 4 or 5. So in there will lie a lot of bargaining chips. Looking clean, Daniel. Thank you, Phil. Thank you very much. Broski, if you have, okay, yep, all right. Phil, do you wear a suit to show a house or a white leather outfit to match your Tesla? So I wear suits only when I go to coaching. When I coach at any level, high school, pro, whatever, I wear suits. When I show houses, I wear jeans and stuff. Just because I like to, when I show a house, especially if it's somebody who hasn't really got a lot of information on houses, I try to take them through the basements. I go around the outside, I get in the dirt and show them different things, because most people don't know those things. They don't know about the clay content level of the soil. They don't understand how to look at ceilings to see how the house is shifted, or what to look for in the basement to see if there's any concerns. So, yeah, I want to be as hands-on as possible as a realtor. All right, let's see. Mile marker, coach, to an extent, aren't Eagles in the same place with Kelce as Lions with Ragnow? Well, Kelce, I believe, said he's flat out retiring. I think he said, "Yo, I'm done." Unless he comes back and changes his mind, I guess. I mean, that could be possible. So I would think a little different. And yes, I do not wear a white suit with the Tesla. So there we go, mile marker. Yes. Southwest, I have no problem with how the Lions use their running backs this year. You've got to preserve them. Don't overuse them. It's a long season. It is. And you want to try to get max value out of them over the course of their career as well. So I see what you're saying. Yeah. They'll give Goff 4 years at $180 million plus incentives. That does sound fairly plausible. So you are probably onto something with that. And thanks for that, Dale. Broski, mile marker, Kelce retired. Did Ragnow retire? No, Ragnow is just saying he needs time to process, basically. Mile marker, did he? Hadn't heard. Yes. Yeah, Kelce, I'm pretty sure he did say he was going to retire. All right, bit lady, if Goff takes the 30 million range, there has to be quite a bit of guaranteed money. Yeah, I would agree. He is already at 33. His stats show near top 5 or 50K, top 10/40K with Stafford. 43, 45K is a top 8 and okay. All right, in your opinion. Yeah. I just learned what IMO meant, by the way. Yeah, if Goff takes anywhere around 30 million a year, then man, this fan base should just absolutely adore him, because he would be taking egregiously below what he would probably command on the free market. So if he gets that, plus you're saving so much money to spend on other spots, man, if he comes anywhere around 30, 35, 38 million, I think Lions fans should be jumping up and down. Phil, who would you have to give up to get Crosby from the Raiders? Branch and Campbell? Who? And would you be willing to give up both of those guys for him? Man, I don't know. To me, I really like the guy. I do, but I also know football is a year of attrition. Don't hold me this because I don't know his age offhand. I'm guessing he's upper 20s, maybe 27 or 8. So the realistic expectation for his position is he's probably, if he's not near the peak of his physical wherewithal, then he's probably near the beginning of the downside. And it doesn't mean he'll be trash in 2 or 3 years. It just means, he's probably near the cusp of his abilities. Where Branch and Campbell, they're probably 3 or so years away from ever hitting that cusp. The cusp in my eyes, you get to about 25, it lasts to about 28, maybe some rare times 29. But I would not trade them both for him. As much as I like him, I would not trade those 2 guys for him. Trump Ragnow is thinking on it. He is, yes. Broski just looked it up. Seems like it might not be official, but he is flip-flopping. So you're correct. Could be similar to the Ragnow situation. Okay, yeah. If he is going back and forth on it, then maybe he's not fully retired. And I apologize. That's just what I thought he was going to do. Randy, I believe that Goff gets a team-friendly extension. He already said he has more money than his family needs. He doesn't need the money. He wants a Super Bowl ring and won't bleed the team. He's a team guy. Yeah, if he pulls a Brady, excuse me, where he's taking like egregiously less money, I mean, just thinks, yeah, I'll resign for $18 million a year. then man, you need to be all in on this guy. Everybody does. Even some of those are the detractors of Goff at that point. All right, Thomas, draft Jackson Powers, Johnson. Even if Frank doesn't retire this season, he can learn under Frank. Yeah, and I think to your point, Thomas, to me, if he's there at that end of the first round, I probably am taking him just to play him at guard for a season or two until Ragnow does move on, whenever that may be. Maybe it'll be 5 years from now. Who knows? But you fill a position in need while having potential flexibility in the future. Mile marker. Man, I know they say there's no one player to the team, but when Rags is out, ouch. Yeah, it's noticeably different when he's out and or when Jonah Jackson's out. And that's kind of where I'm saying with Jackson Powers Johnson that you're probably going to have to replace one guard this offseason, and there is some potential for two. If Ragnow retires, then you're probably keeping one of the guards. But you're gonna have to address the offensive line as far as for the now and the future in this offseason's draft, I think. Broski, Uncle Buzz, go cry somewhere else, son. Okay, maybe I missed something. All right, Thomas, Brad is not spending big money. I would agree. That doesn't seem to be his norm. Southwest, take care of the core first before you spend big money on free agents. I agree with that. Yeah, you want to make people believe that you come to Detroit, you're drafted in Detroit, we're taking care of you before we worry about bringing in somebody else. Broski, 4 years, 160 million seems about right for Goff. Yeah, it sounds like most everybody's in about the same neighborhood with their thoughts. Dale, I hope we keep Donovan Peoples-Jones. I think there's a strong possibility. Bergs, Lions should stay the course, build within the draft, and sprinkle in some free key agents. Yeah, I think that seems to be where they're going to go with things. All right, a couple more here, and that's about due 30 for me. Phil, Brad going to trade back? I think that is a possibility. And I know we talked about it in the mock draft. I could see a scenario where, our 29th overall pick, maybe we trade back with somebody who wants to, especially if they want a quarterback with a fifth-year option. That makes a lot of sense to me that somebody would want to come up, sort of like the Ravens did with Lamar Jackson to get him and secure that fifth year. So the Lions would be in an ideal situation or place in the draft for that. And maybe you could get, I don't know, maybe like a mid-level second-round pick while still getting, something else on top of that. And you could be onto something, Phil. Southwest Broski, yeah, if they could get Goff for 4 years, 160 million, they'd have a better chance of retaining most of their core. I would agree. The more money you can save on Goff, the more money you have to spend on other spots, right? Thomas Goff is not accepting any offer under 48 million. We shall see. You might be right, man. Phil, Laporta blocks great. Yes, he's pretty good, I think. Mile marker, hey, folks, think about clicking share and then copy. You don't have to send it out, but it still counts good for the channel. Thank you for that. I would not have considered that, so thanks for that. Porta, yes, Phil. Yep. Southwest, 40 million versus 45 or 50 million. You're going to be you're not going to be slumming at 40 million. Just give more guaranteed money. There you go. Kittle, yes, George Kittle. Yep. Thanks for that, Trump. All right, Broski, Goff isn't elite, but he's solid. I take him on my team. He's a pocket passer, and he's intelligent, which is what matters. Yeah, he takes care of everybody's going to say, man, he had a stretch of whatever it was, 3 games or so where he turned the ball over a lot. There's a lot that comes into that. The offensive line was bleeding with injuries at that point, which meant extra hits were getting on him. And to be fair to the Bears and the Packers, although I'll give the Bears credit because they did it first, the Bears exposed a weakness that Ben Johnson and Goff didn't have an answer for. And it took them throughout most of that first Bears game to really kind of address it. And then the Packers basically copied it. They had success with it. But after that point, you can see the Lions had kind of evolved into answers for that. So there you go. Anyways, mile marker. Me too. There's real potential there for depth. Yes, correct. Draft the best DE possible. I would think, yeah, that would be an absolute must. Thomas, don't be surprised if Brad goes O-line in round 1, then have an aging Decker. Jonah is a free agent. Glasgow is a free agent and older. And, of course, Frank is uncertain. Yeah, and I almost wonder at some point if they do move Decker inside to guard and move Panay to tackle on the left side, left tackle. I could see that happening probably sooner versus later. The big key is Taylor Decker is going to have to agree to moving inside. All right, Broski, 4 years, 160, 120 guaranteed. Smells about right. Yeah, somewhere in that neighborhood, probably. Phil, Glasgow, too. Yes, I agree. Thomas, Phil, yes. Bit lady, love that. Brad Holmes presser and taking receipts. Quite assuming. The team is amusing, excuse me. The team and organization is the same all the way throughout the three short words: salty, savage, and grit. There you go. I think that's a good description of them. Miles, have a good one. Kurt Steele. Yep. Have a good one, Kurt. See you around, my friend. Phil, Jack Fox, best player on the team. He's pretty good at his position. Mile, how are you doing that bit lady? Very good. All right. Phil, who's Kurt Steele? He is a longtime sports reporter, and we were blessed to have him in the show at least earlier today. I don't know if he's still in the channel at this moment. All right, guys, it's been an hour, so I got to get ready for work, and got a game today, so got to get ready for that as well. So if you haven't yet subscribed to Lions Talk Live, please consider doing so, making that push for 5,800. We're about 20 subs away, and if you enjoyed today's content, please hit that thumbs up thing. All right, I will see you guys all on the next Lions Talk Live. Take care, everybody.